Hello, I am Flavio Guberman, Senior Partner at Carrion Law Firm. I am the Head of Corporate, Business and International Law Department in our firm. In this presentation, I will share with you some thoughts and advice about investments in Brazil. Today, we will cover topics ranging from the economic landscape and misconceptions about our tax system to real estate investments, passing by legal structures for investments. Before going further on this subject and its specificities, some general information will help you to understand why Brazil is the country to place investments and the best market in Latin America, not only because country accounts for about 40% of South America's GDP and is a destination of 7.8% of the region's exports, but also for many other reasons. Brazil is the 11th largest recipient of foreign direct investments in the world in terms of inflows, and the largest in Latin America and the Caribbean. The main investing countries in Brazil are the Netherlands, the United States, France, Spain, Canada, and Japan. Investments are mainly oriented towards commerce, non-metallic mineral products, chemical products, financial and auxiliary services, and motor vehicles. Brazil is the largest oil producer in Latin America and the leading producer of biofuels. In terms of distribution among countries in the region, Brazil emerged as the top destination of foreign investments, receiving 41% of the total foreign direct investments inflow in Latin America. For a comparison, Mexico followed closely in second place, attracting only 17%. Brazil experienced nearly double the foreign direct investments growth from 2021 to 2022, with an impressive 97% increase, while Mexico saw a more moderate growth of 14% compared to the previous year. The main difference is infrastructure, legal and financial systems, and qualified labor work, areas in which Brazil has an upper hand, and taxation, slightly favorable to Mexico. One specific area that always arises interest in Brazil is the real estate, due to the most proficient and flourishing agribusiness sector in the globe, responsible alone for 12% of the world's food production, with an enviable rentability much higher than in Australia, Canada, Mexico, or Argentina, other agribusiness giants. Or the tourism sector, by the infinite range of possibilities, for instance, in acquisitions, services, and financing related to such vibrant market. The sector is responsible for around 7.8% of the national GDP. Brazil is widely considered one of the best places to invest in the world. I want to repeat that. It offers political and economic stability, a strong infrastructure, booming tourism, and an incredible diverse market. The country experienced soaring levels of foreign direct investments in 2021 and 2022. According to the Central Bank, in 2022, foreign direct investments was recorded at $90.6 billion, which was 93% higher than in 2021. Foreign investments in Brazil alone are equal to Ecuador's GDP or 2.5 Bolivia's GDP. The balance of foreign investments received by Brazil in 2021 and 2022 was the highest as a proportion of GDP when considering the 15 largest economies in the World Bank ranking. So, let's talk about investing in Brazil and how to deal with the country's singularities. We will be able to see that many obstacles are purely imaginary, and others, with a proper team of legal advisors, are not really a challenge as one may think. Let's talk about misconceptions and difficulties. Whenever you talk to foreign investors, they always point out the cumbersome and complex taxation, bureaucratic delays, and heavy and rigid labor legislation as the main difficulty they face in Brazil. Nevertheless, do not allow yourself to be fooled by some prejudice and misconceptions. Brazil has a long, solid, and developed business environment. Uruguay and Chile have less complicated legislations, but they do not have a market as strong and as attractive as Brazil's. The country has adopted several measures to modernize itself and to improve its infrastructure. As part of the country's ongoing effort to strengthen its business environment, Brazil introduced electronic certificates of origin, which reduce the time required for import documentary compliance, facilitating and simplifying the whole process. In this scenario, specific laws were passed, such as the Economic Freedom Law, enacted in 2019, which aimed to reduce bureaucracy for business. The country also made several infrastructure concessions, which have helped foster investment. The last president has improved the business environment in the country, implementing reforms such as decreasing the number of days needed to create a company in Brazil from 80 days down to the regional average of 30 days. Easing of regulation in some sectors. Several laws have recently passed in the National Congress, and potential amendments to the tax system will help as well. A quite wide tax system reform is under discussion, and one of its goals is to make fiscal burden lighter. The worldwide average statutory corporate income tax rate, measured across 180 jurisdictions, is 25.42% when weighted by GDP. In Latin America, several countries have increased their corporate tax rate in one hand, especially Colombia, Chile, and Mexico. Brazil, on the other hand, following several measures adopted between 2019 and 2022, have decreased its rates, although the country is still perceived as one with an incredible high rate. It's generally said that the average taxation in Brazil goes up to 34%. But the 34% tax rate is not accurate, since many sectors are entitled to direct or indirect tax reductions, both federal and state taxes, such as textile, tech companies, building and infrastructure sector, machinery and equipment, transportation, among many others. Depending on the chosen state to invest, the reduction goes even further with a much wider range of beneficiated sectors. Therefore, an expert lawyer will be inestimable to help you to properly select the sector, the place, or even the Brazilian company where to invest. For instance, Federal Law 11,196 from 2005 offers tax incentives for technological innovations. But there are dozens of areas and specific laws on tax benefits. Counting on such reductions, the average tax rate can decrease down to 20 to 23% lower than the world's average. For example, the main tax is the corporate income tax, Imposto de Renda, and it's levied on the taxable profits of an entity at a rate of 15%. The others, COFINS, a monthly federal social assistance contribution, calculated as a percentage of revenue, is levied at the rate of 7.6%. Under the non-cumulative method, a COFINS credit system is maintained to ensure that the tax is applied only once on the final value of each transaction. However, some taxpayers, such as financial institutions, telecommunication companies, cooperatives, and companies that opt to calculate corporate income tax social contribution using a presumed profits method, are subject to the cumulative method of COFINS system, which applies a rate of 3% with no credit system. The general rates of COFINS may be reduced in certain circumstances. For example, financial revenues may be subject to a rate from 0 to 4% depending on the nature of the transaction. Also, certain transactions are exempt from COFINS. In cases as exploitation of services or assets are typically exempt, where it results is funds entering in Brazil. PIS, which is also a federal social contribution, calculated as a percentage of revenue, is levied on the rate of 1.65% under the non-cumulative method. A PIS credit system is meant to ensure that the tax is applied only once on the final value of each transaction. So, as one can see, it's not entirely true that our country has a hostile business environment. The very key to a successful investment is knowledge. Knowledge and trust. Knowing how and where to invest, again, is where Proper and correct advice is needed. And trust in your partners and advisors. Due diligences are highly recommendable, another of our expertise. As mentioned before, a very comprehensive tax reform is under discussion, and it's expected to substantially reduce the direct taxation. We will shortly present you in a future video and article an overview over the reform. But we must say that the tax reform has been a highly relevant topic in economic policy in Brazil due to the fact that experts consider the current tax system to be highly complex. Because it is, 1. Largely cumulative, resulting in the penalization of sectors with longer production chains, such as many manufactured products. 2. Highly influenced by origin-based taxation, resulting in the burdening of investments and exports, and encouraging the so-called fiscal war between states. And 3. Based on multiple rates, resulting in lower transparency for consumers and increased litigation. The reform currently under discussion in Brazil aims to address these issues by adopting non-cumulative taxation, destination-based taxation, and the establishment of 3 rates: standard, reduced, and zero. In summary, the tax reform presently under discussion in the Brazilian Congress aims to simplify the country's current complex tax system, which has long been a significant challenge to business activity and investment by domestic and foreign companies. Understanding the reform and its possible consequences, as well as monitoring its next stages for approval, is essential, so that companies can be prepared for the new tax environment in Brazil. It is why we will present, in the near future, specific considerations on this important subject, a very sensitive point in Brazil, and that is subject to changes. We will keep you updated on this matter. Investing in real estate is a very interesting field in Brazil. There are practically no statutory limitations to foreigners acquire properties in Brazil, being a very safe investment both for one's own use and for leasing to third persons. Driven by rising property demand, Brazil's house prices grew around 6% year over year in 2022. São Paulo saw a reasonable 5% house price increase in the year, higher than Rio de Janeiro, 2.2%, Porto Alegre, 1.7%, and Brasilia, 1.31%. Meanwhile, in Florianopolis, property prices increased by an impressive 11.32% as coastal cities continue to gain popularity. In Brazil, the cost of living per person is 3 times lower than it is in the US, on average. If one takes New York, for instance, 5 times lower, or 5 times lower than in France or in the United Kingdom. Because of this, many expatriates come to Brazil in search of a high quality of life for a much lower cost. Moreover, the Brazilian real is near a 20-year low versus US dollar, euro, or the British pound, meaning that investors will gain much more for their money in Brazil right now. High-quality medical services at an affordable price is another attractive. There are no restrictions to foreigners to buy properties in cities or urban areas, just an inscription at the National Revenue Service, Receita Federal, what is quite easily obtained, and whenever the money arrives in Brazil, a proof of legal origin of the resources may be required. Land, or crude land, is another matter. There are few specificities that one must observe. Today, 64,463.64 square kilometers of land in Brazil are owned by foreigners, companies or individuals, an area 2 times the size of Belgium. It seems much, but it's not. It represents only 1.84% of the total. There are limitations of size and vicinity, depending where a foreign investor can acquire an area from 2.5 to 5.5 square kilometers. The size varies depending on the state and the city. But the foreigner is entitled to buy land in different areas, meaning that there is no restriction for how many rural properties one may possess. Companies or individuals. Also, a foreigner must present a development and exploration plan of the acquired land to the Ministry of Agrarian Development. Remembering that Federal Law 6634, a law from 1979, was changed and modernized in 2015, which introduced protections measures to foreign investments in real estate. There are legal ways to see some demands be softened, such as having Brazilian partners or owning a Brazilian company. The investor may create a Brazilian investment company with its own capital, and this company will be the owner of the land. If this investment company is totally detained by a foreigner, some specific rules may apply. But we will always use some very blunt examples. Transnational companies such as Monsanto, ArcelorMittal, Gazprom, Unilever, Philip Morris, Citcorp, Berkshire Hathaway, among others, have considerable properties in Brazil. Proper legal advice is mandatory, not only to choose the right investment, but also and mainly to determine the way the investment will flow, forms of controlling, and the taxation. Considering the blooming and growing agribusiness sector, this is a very profitable way of investing. With the demand on the up, property prices rising, and the prospect of a favorable exchange rate, it's certainly a good time for foreign buyers to invest in Brazil. Remember earlier when we have talked about complexity? It seems complicated indeed, and it is, but a proper and experienced lawyer and accountant will really help you soaring over such intricate forest and will help you to save money on taxes and even in labor costs. Today we will not discuss this matter, but we will shortly present you a specific article on this to help you to understand the idiosyncrasies, including explanations on the payroll taxes. When setting up a business, if this is your choice of investment, there are numerous decisions to be taken and procedures to be decided upon, the selection of a tax regime being one of them. Before making a choice, a thorough analysis should be made, looking at internal as well as external factors, such as the economic outlook, among others. By planning the type of activity, its market goals and ownership structure, and the company size, the investor has enough information and resources to choose the legal status that better suits the business. Usually, foreign investors choose to set up a limited liability company or corporations. As one can see, there are many rules, federal and local, applicable. The legal structure one may choose will be paramount. The investor must be very careful, since the chosen structure will have direct impact on the taxation and in controlling the company, if you have associates, local or foreigner. Let's simply overview some general aspects. As one may know, taxable income refers to any individual's or business compensation that is used to determine tax liability. The total income amount or gross income is used as the basis to calculate how much the individual or organization owes the government for a specific tax period. It's why the two basic methods of taxation exist: actual income or deemed taxable income. Actual income or actual profit method is the result of consolidating account entries called accounting result, adjusted with required additions and deductions, non-deductible expenses and non-taxable incomes, to arrive at the net result before tax. Deemed taxable income is the deemed profit ratio is determined under one of the following methods: based on the foreign company's records of actual costs and expenses connected with the remuneration. A 3-year average deemed profit ratio, if previous approval for transactions in the past 3 years with identical contracts exists. This is an important issue because starting activities under the most appropriate tax arrangement leads to opportunities for cost reduction. The analysis must consider the sector, company size, corporate structure, and estimates of revenues, expenses, and profit margin. A proper team of experts, both lawyers and accountants, will be necessary at the very stage to counsel you through. In the realm of global investment, opportunities are as vast as they are varied. Yet, among these, Brazil stands as a beacon of untapped potential and robust growth. Navigating the complexities of this stupendous market may seem daunting, but with the right legal guidance, the path becomes not just manageable, but also incredibly rewarding. Brazil stands out for its political stability and robust legal system, even when compared to other countries in the region. Its financial system is among the most sophisticated globally, facilitating both the inflow and outflow of capital. Moreover, the current tax benefits on profits and dividends offers an added incentive, although this is subject to change. There are many ways for placing your investments in the country: direct investments, participation in societies or corporations, bonds, investment funds, among others. And there are no restrictions to repatriate your money or to send your gains abroad. We strongly recommend that both our domestic and international clients seek specialized legal advice in both corporate and tax law. This will not only assist you in identifying the most advantageous investment routes, but also in navigating the regulatory intricacies with ease. Here at Carrion Advogados, we are fully equipped to meet all your legal needs. Our team of highly qualified lawyers and accountants is committed to delivering excellence in service, aiding you in every aspect of your business plan, including tax strategies. If you are looking to capitalize on this burgeoning market, we invite you to engage in a comprehensive discussion of all available options and opportunities with us. Please consider this an open invitation to reach out. We are eager to assist you, clarify any uncertainties, and address any queries you may have. Your success is our mission, and we are at your service to ensure it.